Hi, folks. This is Chris Voss from the chrisvossshow.com, the chrisvossshow.com. There's an old story, and you probably heard about it. It's bounced around through several different motivational speakers, but it's a story of an IBM CEO who had a vice president who lost, I believe it was like 12 or $75 million or something like that on a deal. And basically, the vice president came into the CEO to tender his resignation, and the CEO basically stated to him, "What do you mean you want to quit? We just spent $12 million teaching you and educating you. We're not going to let you go with that sort of investment that we put into you." That's a very smart way of thinking about things in some degrees. One of the things that I instituted a long time ago with my corporations was what we used to call the only stupid question is the unasked question. The only stupid question is the unasked question. Okay? Now, when people come into an organization, they learn new traits or tasks or how the organization works in and of itself. Um, there's a lot of questions they usually have, and unfortunately, sometimes they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to feel dumb. They don't want to, look embarrassing in front of others. So a lot of times they don't ask questions they really should ask. And unfortunately, usually you find out what those questions are when they foul up an account, foul up a client, foul up machinery, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, through all the business I've ever have, whatever usually goes wrong is the question that was never asked because the person didn't have, for some reason, the motivation to ask it. So it's very important in your environment for your corporation that you have, and maybe in your household too, if you're, someone raising children in a family, that you have an environment where people can speak out, they can talk about their opinions, they can ask questions, they can learn. Because that's really the basics of how we learn. Unless we ask questions, we just operate like a bunch of dumb lemmings, which is probably not the thing you want because they're very dangerous when they run off the cliff. So what I used to always teach my employees when they would come on board, we do the initial orientation with them. I'd say, look, one of my rules with the company, one of the company's mottos or mantras is the only stupid question is the unasked question. Everyone will help you here. Everyone will work with you. No one will think you're stupid. Please ask all the questions that you need to know because the question that you don't ask will usually be the one that costs us money and gives us problems. And in the space of you not asking it to feel free from being embarrassed will usually mean that you'll be much more embarrassed when you make that horrendous mistake that costs us money. So it's better to ask those questions now. So what we did is we always had an environment, and this had to come from me being the CEO and on the white horse. This had to come from me that you could come to me and ask me questions, and then you could ask for information, and then I would treat you in a way that was always learning. A lot of times too, when my employees would ask me questions, I would spend a little bit more time giving them answers as to why certain things are important. When they come to me and go, "Chris, why is this policy here?" or "Chris, why does this take place?" I'll give them examples of why those things took place. Now, it sometimes took a little bit more time. Sometimes my employees were like, "Gee, Chris, why do you give us a little bit more information that we really need to know?" And I'm like, "That's so that you understand, because somebody probably is going to ask you in the future what or why things are done, and you'll understand why they are done. I don't want a bunch of robots going, 'The policy is this because it's in a book.' I want you to understand why the policy is there and why it's important, why it helps our clients, and why it helps our business." So that's very important to me. By creating that environment within your corporation, or maybe within some other organizations you have, by creating that environment, you make it so that people ask questions, and that's what you really want. So if you can, put on your wall, the only stupid question is the unasked question. And it's very important that when people ask you questions or when you deal with people, you don't treat them stupid, you don't make them feel embarrassed, you don't belittle them if they ask questions. Now, given that, I've had thousands of employees. So you might have the employee who asks you the same question 50,000 times over, and you're like, you either retarded or you have a retention problem. So you can ask me the same question, but after about like 6 or 7 times of me repeating myself, I kind of go, either you're dumb or I'm dumb for hiring you. So there is those angles. But initially, it's real important. And I would say orientation. And what's funny is by teaching that to everyone who came into my organizations from the very start, what it created was inside of our organizations, you could go ask anyone for help. Even if you were a salesperson, you were competing for the top sales position, you could still ask another salesperson for help and they would help you. And you know what's funny is most of my employees would help and train themselves and each other because they just learned that it was a learning organization and that it was okay to share this information and that there wasn't like, oh, you're stupider than me, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of created a very great environment and moral support that was in our company. And it made it very easy for people that were new, salespeople that are new, to grow, to learn, to find people they could mentor within our corporations. So I can't tell you how many times over the years I saw the greatest examples from this rule and this motto. So if you can, put it in your corporation, live it like yourself, because if you don't be the example, no one else will. But if you put this in your corporation, I guarantee it'll have results for you. The only dumb question is the unasked question. So please ask all your questions up front. So thank you for coming by the chrisvossshow.com. Trust me, that thing has made me so much money. When the employees would train each other, oh my God, saved me so much money in training. Plus, made me a lot because the top guys would train the lower guys, and pretty much the lower guys would become like the top guys. Great for a sales organization. Thanks for coming by. Bye-bye.